what, people? I hope you're having a good day. We have new stream stuff. I made a bunch of stuff because I decided I kind of really wanted to. So there's a new overlay for chatting, there's a new overlay for gameplay. And I have this lovely little camera thing, and I have a mini version of this for the gameplay aspect. Also, I did little pins because I want to do that. When I first started streaming, I think I did that at one point, even for being a YouTuber, I made cute little pins. I have a bunch of pins myself. I think I even found one of them. I've lost this guy now. He's tried to escape so many times. He finally did. I had a little goose, like Goose from Untitled Goose Game, with a knife. And he had tried to escape me so many times. I had lost him when I was in high school a couple times. And one time I thought, like, oh, I had finally truly lost him. And then I go to my graphic design class, and I'm sitting right next to the teacher, and it's been 2 days since, because AB days, 2 days since I'd lost this mofo. And the chance of, eyeshadow, the chance of me finding this guy. I went to sit in my chair, and I felt something prick me. And there was my goose, sitting on my chair. The chance for literally no one to have taken this seat. I am not in a small town. I live in the middle of a city. This school has hundreds of people. This school is a really old school. It has a lot of people. The chance that no one sat in this chair for 48 hours. I have no clue where I lost him, though. But I had a little goose on my old, really old, we're talking like when I first started streaming 2-3 years ago. Absolutely nothing, horrible blue Yeti. It's still same boom arm, actually. I'm pretty sure this is the exact same boom arm. Actually, it's not pretty sure, I know, because I haven't bought another one. I really need to. This poor thing has a scrape on it because I've had it too low and I keep moving back and forth, so it has a nice little metal, my hand's over here, nice little metal scrape across it. I should really get a new one. But it's fine, it's working. Maybe it just needs some, might just need to loosen it a bit. It's very creaky when I move it. And I know for a fact you guys could hear that. But I'm very happy to finally stream. Also, plushie. That is the wrong way. Where's... that guy. Right there. This guy. I'm really happy about him. I had come up with 3 different designs. The first one was inspired by the Freddy Fazbear plushie, the next was inspired by the Minecraft skeleton plushie, and the next was inspired by generic bat plushies. And I'm in a content creator Discord, I'm like, hey, some feedback, which one looks the most like a plushie? I just want to add a little plushie of Mew for my camera setup. I can't hear you. I didn't even say anything. No? Does that work? No? No? I don't know how to express that I'm not sassing you. No. There we go, that'll do. That'll do it. There we go. I'm not sassing you, Shadow. But very cute. I'm talking the plushie. This... Wait, I know how I can do this. Hold on, I'm talking about... This guy! This guy! This guy! He's cute! I love him! I love him! This guy! Very cute. I'm so proud of him. I literally just, immediately after I get feedback, someone was like, oh yeah, this option looks the cutest, the one that's by Freddy Fazbear. I'm like, bet. And then I sat down for the next hour. What was I watching? I don't remember. I think it might have been Pretend It's a City. That's been something I've been watching over on Netflix. Or it might have been Markiplier. No, I'm pretty certain it was Green D&D. I'm pretty certain of that. I'd have to check my history and timestamps. I'm pretty sure it was Grian's D&D with Pixel Riffs, Impulse, Scar, and Gem. Brain lost. But yes, Plushie, I love him. I want him to exist so I can just hold him and flap his little ears, flap the little wings back and forth. That's all I want in the world. It took a minute to end up with that as well. I had just a basic design. I'm like, you know, we're gonna keep pushing this and pushing this and pushing this. So the iterations went from him just kind of floating midair to him sitting on the ground, and then I moved it over to the corner of my canvas and made it look like I was sitting against the corner of the canvas. And then finally moved it back up to the center so I could draw the entire thing. And I'm so glad I did it. It looks amazing. I love him. I love him. I love him so much. I want that too. I need to do that. Also, with the stream overlays and stuff, something I really wanted to get was chat. And to make chat look like how it does now. I wanted to look as much and as close to the Minecraft text as I could. Must go now before I get sad. Alright, bye Shadow. Bye bye. I wanted to look as much as I could, and that shouldn't be a tall order. It was. I haven't done coding since basic middle school classes on whatever that one website was with the orange cat. I don't remember what it was. I remember there was a Minecraft one that I coded. That was like a basic thing, like, oh, if go here, then do this. If go... Yeah. With little block if-then statements. So what I did is I scrapbooked together the code. I slowly moved it around and copy-pasted from various people who have made custom CSS for the Streamlabs chat, which is what we use, the plugin I use, browser source. The browser source I use for this chat. And I slowly copy-pasted and changed around values until I knew what something it did, and I started changing it to be what I wanted. Thankfully, there is a very basic font that looks a lot like the Minecraft font that most things will accept, and it's press start to P. And it looks very similar. It's a nice pixelated font. It is not the Minecraft font, but it does a good damn job. And then also, I fixed stuff down here as well. So there's the little... There we go. Right here is follower goal. Over here is where alerts will be now, and I've also updated the sound alerts. So sound alerts also appear the same as the Minecraft achievements that I normally have, and everything appears. How do arms work? There. there. So they're all down there. And then also this one down here just every now and again shuffles. Where? Tumblr and Blue Sky! I really liked making those. That's just a tiny image slideshow that runs through. But now that I've held up everybody long enough, we're going to move over to gameplay, and I will also give you your... gameplay? OBS did not like me moving to gameplay. There we go. Also, unfortunately, I realized this after I started changing around the sources I already had and everything. I need to turn off my shaders. It does not like me running with shaders. It does not like me streaming with shaders. It makes the stream run way slower. Let me give you... Where's... OBS, you're not allowed to crash. We're literally we're 8 minutes into stream. You are not allowed to crash at me trying to scroll up. You're gonna try and crash at me scrolling up, aren't you? Hello, Almond! Hi, welcome! We're trying to get things going. I added a bunch of stream elements, I changed around a bunch of stuff, and I love it. But now OBS wants to crash. It wants to crash? Because I want to scroll up and give you guys chat words so you guys can play Wordle. But it doesn't want to let me do that. I'm currently staring at a white screen. I just want to give you chat words. Oh, the moment I click off OBS, it suddenly starts working. Oh, wow. Okay, thanks. So thank you so much, OBS. Can I turn on the chat words browser source, please, so you can look at it? That'd be great. I would love for that to work. No, you're gonna give me a white screen? You're gonna give me a white screen again. The moment I click off OBS, it's fine, by the way. The moment I click off. I want to do one thing. And it's click right here to turn on chat words. Yes! Okay, I am not touching OBS anymore. I'm going to quickly mention, and I hate it, I didn't notice until I started moving around browser sources to try and make everything fit the thing. I realized the portal is one block too big. So that's why there's black around it. It is simply too big. Yippee! Oh yeah, sound alerts. Down. Somewhere. There we go. Oh, sound alerts over here is now down there. And it should appear over the little plush. Yippee! So, everything should be looking fantastic and working fantastic. And I'm very happy with all of it. I wanted to stream so bad yesterday, but I was exhausted. I did not have the energy. Like, I want to put... So, I have actually miraculously... Oh, right. I'm in the PSMP Live VC. I should undeafen, because I forgot I was doing whole intro stuff, so I was dealing with that. I have miraculously gotten myself to start working on the Passion SMP video for this week. Starting Monday! I haven't been able to do that for over 2 weeks. I've been too busy at the start of every single week. So, I got working. We have so far gutted the XP farm, and it is currently deactivated so I can work on the general area. I have finally fixed my flashback, and I'm going to mention that in a moment because it's pissing me off. But we have over here, we're going to have a nice little library, and I have a nice spot that I can sit here and look at it. There is one little spot the skeletons can spawn in, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. So every now and again, they come and beat me up for daring to be a Skulk Skelly instead of Skelly Skelly. But that's fine. I am simply better. It is okay. Thank you. And I have a brilliant idea to make this an on-off system as well. I'm going to have on-off switches with the help of a tiny bit of redstone and target blocks. How do you make a target block? I'll figure it out. With target blocks, about to go on a 2.5-week trip. Ooh, road trip, nice. I want to go get burritos. There's a burrito place that my family adores, but we have to road trip it because it is 4 hours away. It's an 8-hour round trip. We've literally set out, we've done this twice now. We'll set out at 6 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning, just so we can get to this place by lunch and get back home. I'll round or after dinner. Oh yeah, right, automatic switches. I know I can hit a target block with the grappling hook, which I always have in my inventory, and use that to turn off light sources, so I can turn on and off these farms for me. And I'm going to separate out these spawners as well. So one side will be all the skellies, one side will be all the drowned. And I'll probably put a layer of tinted glass in the middle, or I could probably just separate out the lights enough. That should be just fine. Anyway, I'm actually finally able to time-lapse all of this, because I finally figured out why it wasn't working. In the past several months, I've had one number one theory, because after combing through the logs every time, I try and open Flashback, and I try and run it. Within a good 5-6 seconds, it decides to crash. Just completely, it crashes and kicks me out of the game. And it will kick me all the way back to the main menu. And sometimes, because of the server trying to preserve itself, it goes, oh, you did a weird thing. You have to restart your launcher before you can rejoin. And I go, fuck, I just want to do this tiny little thing. It's what's usually occurring when I'm doing this, when I'm using Flashback and trying to get this to work, is I am on a tight deadline, I'm trying to get the thumbnail done, I can't get the thumbnail done because it just crashed on me, and I probably have about 20 minutes worth of videos supposed to be uploaded. So it's a whole bunch of fun stuff that I'm trying to work through, and I just don't have the time to figure out why the world is not working. In the past, I'm trying to get this to work and reading through the error reports, which doesn't tell you much more than, oh, it's pack handling, something's wrong here, something client payouts, I don't know, something's wrong with your mods, I think. The mods don't match right, but it doesn't matter what I use. I have my mod pack, which has all my aesthetic cute things in it, and I also have the base mod pack that I hand out. Everybody else has no other client-side stuff added. And despite trying on both of those, neither of them work. None of them work. So it's simple. And I finally got into it today. And tried the thing I've been theorizing for months. Which is, oh, it's trying to load a bunch of items and it doesn't like that. It's probably my backpacks. Because, you know, I have 4 of them on me. And they're all holding a lot of items. It's probably that. And I tried testing around with it. I think what I might have tested it once in the past. I'm not completely sure. I think I might have tested it once in the past, but I also had other problems going on Flashback, so I don't think that worked. This time, I finally figured out majority of Flashback. I can get it to work most of the time. I can get it to work long enough I can actually use and load the thing, because my problem in the past was I couldn't even load the flashbacks. I have a feeling it was one tiny mod that I don't really care about, so it's fine. But I finally just tried, you know, not having the backpacks in my inventory. Worked perfectly fine. I can finally use flashback again. I'm just not allowed to have backpacks on me at all. So if I ever dare need to do a time-lapse, I just need to take off my backpacks and put everything into a chest, apparently. And then it's all fine and dandy. There's not a problem to be had. And I'm so annoyed that I couldn't get that to work sooner, because there's so many times, like, I wish I could just time-lapse this, but I'm not allowed to. I am not allowed. Anyway, the thing we're doing today is not me complaining, it's probably gonna be a fair amount of me complaining. And belly aching over random nonsense. Today, what we're actually trying to do is go through and deal with more of these paths. I am slowly kicking away at them. We've already walked past some more that I've worked out. I think we only dug out these areas the last stream we did this. But I have gone all the way out to here. Oh yeah, I did the next level. Michelle, I think is the name that Lilac decided. I think it's Margaret. Hold on. How far do I have to scroll back through me and Lilac's DMs to find this? Where's Lilac? What did you name the axolotl? I think it was Margaret. I'm not wholly sure. I think it was Margaret. That sounds correct. That sounds right. Margaret! It is Margaret! I'm so happy I remember that. I keep wanting to say Michelle. It's Margaret. We've done a loop around Margaret. I've connected Lilac's front door, I think it is, up. And we've gone all the way out here, but this looks horrible and I want to terraform it, and there's more places I need to terraform as well. Also, I finally got Dramatic Skies working. I need to add a skybox mod. And I finally found that worked. I've been messing with so many mods lately, so very many. And this is loading way worse than it usually is. Do I need to turn off Voxy? Do I need to do that thing? What is making it run such a horrid way? Because you guys are getting frames. You are getting absolute frames. You're getting half the frames that I am. Which is not good. Decidedly, not good. Not very good. Not very good. So, how am I gonna... Can I literally just make Voxy look like poo? Is this an option available to me? Voxy. General render. No, you already look like poo. Yeah, there's not much more I can do about that. You already look like poo. There's not much more to be had. And what else am I running? Because I don't have my shaders on. It could just be the skybox. Do I have to turn off my skies so that the stream can run well? Perhaps. That frame stuttered on the worst possible frame, and I need to go back and find that and screenshot that, because Pumpkin will adore that. I have a few frame stops that I adore coming from streaming. Either you or am I lagging like hell? Yeah, the stream bad. It's because I'm trying to reload textures and it really doesn't appreciate that. It really does not. Do I still have? I should. I should have. Is OBS gonna freak out at me daring to try and add an image again? Is it gonna crash because I dare click? Am I not allowed to click on OBS while I'm streaming? I might not be. I'm not allowed to click on OBS when I'm streaming. The moment I move over and click on Minecraft, it stops. It stops crashing. I'm not allowed to click. I'm just not allowed. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna. Can I? Can I do that? Can I roundabout this? I should be able to. I think I can. Probably. It just occurred. I forgot to do something. I did do a live announcement on Blue Sky and Tumblr. Blue Sky did add a thing where you can put your live as a status, and I forgot to do that part of it. That's kind of important. I've been alive. Alive? I've been alive for 21 years. I've been live for almost a half hour. Wow. And I completely forgot to do that, so let me fix that real quick while I have other things open. Send a self. Can I, I should. I imagine I still have this horrid screenshot of myself on my computer. Now Discord isn't responding. All I did was open File Explorer. Oh, there it goes. Nice, nice, nice. Can I get this screenshot of myself? I would adore to have that. Nope, it's trying to crash again. It's just trying to crash again. It's doing its own thing. Every time I try and open... Yes, I do. Okay. Let me send that. Yes! Yes! Okay, we're roundabouting this. I have now sent the screenshot to myself, and hopefully I can just put it up big on my own camera. Because OBS does not want me to click on it at all. I have this screenshot of myself. This is from one of the amalgamation videos. One of the original ones. 0.1 or 0.2? Love that. Yeah. I think... Like, I recognize I have a big forehead. I'm gonna put this out in the open. I recognize I have a big forehead. This is the reason I stopped being on T. Because I knew I was gonna go bald from it. That was very much so a concern. And I started seeing my hairline recede. I'm like, you know, I think I've hit my goals. I'm good. And even before that, I still had a big hairline. I still had a big forehead and no hairline. So I figured, why not? It's the perfect canvas. Why not? Who's stopping me? Either they're gonna make fun of... You can't see that. They're gonna make fun of my forehead, or I make fun of my forehead. Just slap it right there. But yeah, that is generally my idea. Either I make fun of my forehead first, or other people do. I'd much rather just make fun of it myself first. Game's just been a butthead, isn't it? Or maybe it doesn't recognize that as a word you can use. Possibly. Is there any other... Oh no, there is huge terraforming. I still need to... Yeah, there is. I want to lower, like, this entire line. Because ideally, I want this to look as close as it can to where the thing is. And right now, it's not. So that is to be done. I'm so upset I've been missing streams. I want to stream! I want to! I don't have the time! I don't have the energy, because I have no time. Pretty sure I mentioned this in like the last Passion SMP video. I put down chill. I put down that my chills were stream. My streams were chill. I added that tag. I might need to immediately remove that tag, because I do not think I'm capable of being chill on stream. It is immediate. Excuse? Oh. It is immediate dopamine. Immediate dopamine high. There is like none of... Excuse me, sir. That is awfully rude. Now, if I could sleep in peace, that'd be great. Thank you. Can't all insult me if I insult myself first. It's mean to me. Yeah. I could open backpacks and have them open. That'd be great. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I can still ask. I can still attempt. I always think of myself not really as a high energy person, but the moment I try to be chillax and hang out, no. No. There are very few instances where I'm a chillax person, and it's usually because I'm sitting there trying to read the room to see if I'm supposed to be. The most chill you will ever see me is the first time I meet you. That is about it. That's all you get. That is the only time you get of me being a chill, laid-back person. After that, no holds barred. No holds barred. No holds barred? No holds barred. Bart's behind me. To be fair, he is no hold Bart right now. I'm not holding any of my plushies, actually. You'd be surprised how many plushies I have around my desk as it is. How many? How many? 10. It was enough that I couldn't just immediately glance count it. Because most things I can go, oh, that's a group, that is... No, there's too many groups. Because I have 2 over here, and these are special ones. These are ones I've had since I was really little. I have a hedgehog of... Oh, 11. I have a little snowman right here. I have a little hedgehog right here. I have a little Totoro that was once a keychain, but the keychain snapped apart, so I didn't want to lose him, so now he permanently stays in the house. I have what is supposedly a really old squirrel that I got from grandparent, and it's just this tiny little beanbag of a toy. I have a knitted bee from Pumpkin. I have 4 different sloths right here. Do we want to count rubber ducks as plushies? I have a rubber duck. And I have a little squishy duck. He's like a memory foam guy. I love him. I have a lot of stuff at my desk. I have just about everything I can need over here. I have different sections of my room at this point. I care a lot about interior design, and more so making sure it's as functional for me as I can make it, especially in the limited set of no budget, and working within my room and the current furniture I own, which isn't always the easiest, and I think just about anybody in this generation attempting to do that will tell you that. Or literally anybody, just anybody, period. Anybody will tell you, yeah, that's kind of annoying to do, kind of difficult. And I have like 9 rubber ducks sitting on my dresser. I got 3, all from one claw machine, because for some reason it kept letting me try to get them, and I don't know why. But I have all 3 of mine from one claw machine. And I don't think... No, I do have another one. Castle Crashers music, yeah! Space Pirates is the name of the song. I do have another one from a Pride event. Because the Adam and Eve store was there, and for some reason they had a rubber duck, so now I have an Adam and Eve rubber duck. I don't know. I could not tell you. I just have an Adam and Eve rubber duck. And I sent a picture of it to one of my friends who loves rubber ducks. And she's just like, what you got there? I'm like, this booby. But then I explained, no, don't worry, it's just Pride event. You're good. It was a big old market, and just a bunch of companies handing out free stuff. I'm like, I like free things. Give me that highlighter, please. I think I still have the multi-sided highlighter I got from that, too. I think I genuinely do. Somewhere, perhaps, mayhaps. I think I do. I feel like I do. I think I do. I'm pretty sure. Feels like something I would still have. There's the mildest of horror tendencies, but it's more like I forget it's there and it just stays there. Because I'm more and more discovering I have an absolutely downright horrid short-term memory. You'll ask me the question and give me the correct answer to it, and ask me again like 2 minutes later, I'm immediately forgotten. It's gone. It's not in there. I don't know what you want. I completely forgot what we were even doing. Why are you here? I want to be home playing Minecraft. Or making a cup of tea. I want a cup of tea. Should have made a cup of tea for stream. I did not do that. Usually I have a drink for stream, so I can have a little bit of extra sugar. Just a little bit of sugar, keep me going. I did not do that. I got too sucked into enjoying making the little hilarious go live tweet. I don't have Twitter. Posts. Because I was making a shitty little Mew, and then I rendered him beautifully. And I love it very dearly. I love it very much. Where is this? Where is this so I can just eat it to myself? Why are people texting me? Don't text me. Where's... no, not here. No, I do not have it here. It is on a completely different app. I have forgotten. Where's... There we go. If you did not see it. There you go. Oh, my own light does not help this. It's already bright enough as it is. This gorgeous thing. That, believe it or not, I only spent, I think, 10 minutes on. Originally, I was gonna have, like, just do a little blinking and do a couple frames of it, but, you know what, this is funnier. This is what I want to do. And I was giggling to myself the entire time I made it, and I was... I love it. I love it way more than I should. But I love it. I think that's something that is something I used to do a lot. Early on in the streaming, when I was still using fucking Twitter, I did just do silly fucking memes every chance I could. Every time I went live, I did a silly bullshit meme that I threw together either in Canva or in my art program, Minibank Paint, minutes beforehand. And that's all you got. What? There we go. And my nose. Every time I start streaming, the moment I start streaming, my nose goes, "Oh, you remember you have allergies? Now you do." It's a rather lovely thing. I adore it so much. Oh, hold on. Pause stream. We have skelly horses. If I can. There we go. Can I open my inventory? We steal their saddle. It is mine now. And then we steal them. And we collect as many as we can. Because we love skeleton horses. We love them so much. They're not completely taking over my server. It is definitely not a skeleton horse apocalypse. That I'm seriously considering calling horse season on them. And making a glue factory. I'm seriously considering hosting a competition amongst the server to see if I can just get people. Can I? It doesn't help if I'm lagging through this. That really doesn't. That really does not. Can I get off? Thank you. I'm really considering hosting a competition and finding a way to add skeleton horses killed stat. Lagging again, I can't hear nothing. Oh no. Oh. I'm seriously considering adding killed skeleton horses stat to the tab page and just hosting a competition to try and get everybody to kill these stupid skeleton horses that are absolutely everywhere. Do you see my minimap? Every little blue circle up there is a skeleton horse. That does not need to be here. They are covering the mountain. And I don't know why there are so many, but they just are. And I am not a fan. I am not. Where's my bundles? Give me a bundle. We're gonna start a bundle of skeleton horses. Come here. Can I not lag my way across the server? That'd be great. You know what I'm gonna consider doing? Because I feel like this is adding to it. I'm going to close Discord. Because I feel like that is a good way to consolidate the lag I am experiencing. If I try and pick them up with a bundle, will it just pick them up with a bundle? Or do I have to actively do that every time, all the time? Yeah, calm your butt. I just want to see. No, that does not work. I could hope. It does not. Alright, come here. Come here, you all. There are way too many of you, and I despise it. Technically, it is our own fault that there are so many, but also, why don't skell horses burn in the daylight? They really should. By all of Minecraft's logic, they should. But they don't. Why not? Why not? Is there any reason behind this? I don't think so. Because every other skeleton mob burns during the day, and they do not. And I want to know why, because even the zombie horses burn during the day. So why don't the skeleton horses burn during the day? Is it just something they didn't think to code? I don't know. But technically, this is our own fault. We did add a mod that literally just makes the mounts spawn more often, because they're a pretty rare chance. But it has meant that skeleton horses are absolutely well, look at all the skeleton horses. I should only see one. Hi, Pumpkin. I should have expected that intro. For context, I put in the mod VC, hey, I'm live. Also, Pumpkin, here's your chance to come in and make me blush, because that is Pumpkin's goal every time he joins stream. Blink. Are you ready to see the great culling of the skeleton horses? Because that's what we're doing. Also, I do need to remove their saddles for this. 1, because loot. 2, because you'll find out. That's what you'll find out. How many is there? Is there more? How many more? Is there a lot more? There's more over there. There's so many around. Why are there so many skeletons? Probably because it spawns only skeletons up here. Oh my goodness. There's an entire herd. Can you stop spawning so many skeleton horses? I got called into work and just got my phone out at lunch. Oh no. This stupid zombie. Get out of my face. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me just come around here and steal all these skelly horses. I'm gonna get a full bundle. I'm gonna get a stack of skeleton horses. Because that is not a hard thing to do at this point. It's gonna give me a stack of them. Why are there so many? Why are there so many? There's always so many skeleton horses. For no reason. They do not need to be here. But yet, they are in droves. And I'm slowly having to cull as many as I can possibly manage. There's another one. I do not need dozens of herds of skeleton horses. They are not that helpful. They just are not. But they don't despawn at all. At this point, they should have despawned. They should have. But no, they don't. They just don't despawn. No, get in the bundle. Thank you. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off incredibly. Incredibly so. Why do I see a bunch of skeleton horses that are like right here? Oh, there they are. Yes. Yes.
Got something I'm supposed to deliver. Your hands.
Your hands only. What's the message? Nice! Nice almond. There's something I added. What did I add? There's something I added. There's something I added for stream. I can't remember what it was. I think there's another thing for you guys. I don't remember. I know I added something. I could not tell you what it is, but there's something. There's something for you guys to do. I'm sure you'll find it. Probably. Maybe. I don't remember what did I gave you guys something to do, I think. I don't remember. It might have been the Pokemon thing. I don't remember. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue. I'm actually trying to aim for a stack of skeleton horses at this point, because there are so many on this cliff. Why are there so many skeleton horses? Where did you come from? A new hand touches the beacon. This one? I don't know what this one refers to. I don't think it was the channel points. I don't know. I know there was something. There's something somewhere. Doink, doink, doink. Let's pick up all these. How many do I have left? Nope. Still pick up quite a few more. Give me you. Excuse. I just want to literally walk. I'm not doing anything drastic. I'm literally walking on a mountain. Actually, I'm on a mountain. I don't know either. I know I did something. Once I get enough skeletal horses and we're gonna do the thing that we're gonna do, then I'll look. Until then, I don't know. I don't remember. Oh, gotta go. Being bugged by a friend. Alright. Have good luck at work. Well, I hope you have good luck. Good luck at work. Break a leg. Whichever is the most applicable in this situation, I'm not entirely sure. Survive. Survive work. I think that's gotta be the most applicable, regardless of job. I don't think there's a single job where survive work is not on the agenda. I guess this kind of isn't. There's not really, oh, I need to survive this. I just exist. Oh wait, have I a full bundle yet? Could you not lag? I have a full bundle! Perfectly, okay. While we slowly glide to our destination, we're riding Air Mew again. What did I add? I know I did a thing. Was it the Pokemon thing? I don't remember. I thought I added another one. I don't remember. I swear, maybe I did? Did I? Did I? Oh, there's my sound back and forth. What was it? There's a +1? Is it the Pokemon thing? It is just the Pokemon thing. Okay. For mobile viewers, if you want to interact with the Pokemon thing and see all your stuff, it's a little easier when you're on computer because you can just go down to panels and see all of it. It's not too hard. But on mobile, there's little icons at the top of chat, and there's one that's going to say +1. And if you scroll across the top of that little bar, you can see the Pokemon community game. And you can see all the Pokemon you have and all the stuff you have. That's the thing I wanted to remember. Anyway, we're gonna want daylight for this. We're gonna want daylight to see this in all of its glory. I'm very happy I came... I don't think this ever made it into a video or anything. I think I offhandedly mentioned it at some point. I'm not even sure if I did that. This is a little community house I made ages ago. And it's just a cute little place. I guess that is its only point. That is its only thing. It's just a cute little house to be there. What isn't so cute that I have recently added. We're just gonna, yep. Yep. Whole stack of skeletal horses. Yep. If they still have a saddle on them, then they don't fall as far. They don't have nearly as much knockback. So, excuse me, sir. You are not a skeleton. You may be a skeleton. You are not a skeleton horse. This is for the skeleton horses, if you don't mind. Anyway, welcome to the sack of rice pit, where we throw all the skeleton horses, as long as I don't accidentally jump in on them and get stuck in the pit myself. Yes, some will escape, but they can't quite escape all the way. I thought. I'm gonna need to fix that, because they should not be able to do that. Ideally, they all slowly cram down here. And they should not be able to escape. But I took their will to live. I underestimated their will to live. Because you'd think there wouldn't be one. They are dead. Quite literally so. No, apparently they do want to. Maybe they should have thought twice about infesting my server. I'm the only skeleton allowed here. I'm not sure if that's referring to my character or me at this point. That is yet to be decided. I'm not too much of a skeleton anymore. I found I figured out my sleep habits. We're good on that. I drink a lot of water. I'm probably the most hydrated skeleton out there. How am I a skeleton? Pray tell, how am I a skeleton? I suppose there is the skeleton under my flesh, but I feel that's a little too literal. There's gotta be some hip, funny way to say I'm a skeleton. I do not sound like I'm Gen Z at all, in the slightest. And it amazes me every time that people see my face after hearing only my voice and get confused how I look young. But then I hear myself when I talk, and there is a large discrepancy between the way I choose to speak and the way I choose to express my mind, and the face that is right here, that exists before you, right here. There is a dramatic difference between those. Anyway, philosophy aside, let's keep the pit going. Why don't we? Let's keep that pit moving. Yeah, everybody in the pit. Yeah, everybody in the pit. Might need to pick this pit just a little bit higher, so they have a harder time escaping. They managed to do pretty well for themselves. They almost die, but they just don't quite get there. By also pure accident, this is actually a mini bone farm now. It is not the goal at all. I merely wish to satiate the server's bloodlust. That is the #1 goal of this pit. I sacrifice the skeleton horses in hopes that our pets live another day. Because this is the one server you can guarantee the members won't kill your pets, but the server just might. And no matter what I add, I cannot fix this issue. We have added many things to help fix this issue. I cannot fix this issue, and I do not know why. I have not a clue to that. No ideas, no thoughts, head empty. Not a single idea in my head. None to be had. It is merely a tape that expels whatever is engraved on it the moment it exists. Or that'd be more record, wouldn't it? Record? What would be a tape? You engrave on a record, what would you be on a tape? Print on a tape? I suppose print fits best. What does not fit is Voxy refusing to load, and letting me effectively X-ray into my server. Can I not have this? Actually? Thank you. I suppose that's one way. It's a genie of an answer, but that is one way. It did work. I no longer saw it. I can't blame him for that. Nice. Why? Who decided they only wanted half of a tree? Who? Whom stood of, wished upon, dared so they might, have but half a tree. Is this some 90s cartoon? What? Is this what kids think 50% off is? What? Okay. I mean, I guess this is more 50% off, but take what you get. Good with the bad and all that. I merely wish to terraform and make this look not so much like poo. That is a good goal. Speaking of poo, there's gonna be called a landmark. Not that the game is poo, but that I'm cleaning up a lot of poo in it. I still haven't gotten janitor's closet. We need to get a janitor's closet. Damn it, Mr. Poke, drawing self-portrait. So fair. Something I've been enjoying when I'm bored right now. One, or like mainly passing time. Cause I've found an absolute like brain scratcher. Not brain scratcher, that's not dopamine scratch? Dopamine itch? Whichever the turn of phrase is. In incremental games, and I found a free one called Dream Urbo, URBO, Dream 1, and it's just like a cute, tiny little city merge game, and I like it. It's adorable, and it's not what you'd expect of city merge. No, it's a cute little kind of cozy game, and I adore it. I love it. I got it maybe a couple days ago, and I have already quite a few hours in it. It's just a cute little thing. It's just a simple puzzle game, that's about it. You get what it says on the tin. I want to see if they have other games, because it's just fun. It just is. I need to find more incremental games I like, or find one that I'd actually be willing to spend money on. Because right now they seem to be popping off, at least. Because I keep seeing, like, Mark and Jacksepticeye, and Markiplier playing a lot of them, so I'm like, I want to do that. I want the game. I want to see number go up. I'm already doing that in Stardew, but it takes like 20 minutes to do a single day, and I'm doing my best. I want to see number go up. I want to see number get big. I need to find more games where I can see number get big. It doesn't help, I usually... Actually, it's been nice. It's been fun going through all the free games on Steam, because those are always my go-to. The only time I buy a game is if I've already heard about it. Otherwise, I am scrolling the deepest reaches of Steam's indie hellscape to see if I could find something for free. I will always absolutely be spendthrift about Steam. The summer sale completely passed me. Actually, no. I did buy one thing. It was Peak, because I knew it'd probably be on sale. I didn't realize it was already kind of cheap as it was. And Punky and several other friends were playing it. We were all in a call, and they're like, "Oh, you guys want to play? We're gonna go play Peak. Hey, you want me to screen share?" I'm like, I don't think that's gonna be necessary this time. And I just bought the game. Just because I thought it'd be funny. Free games are great. Yes! It's how I found my favorite game, and it's my #1 thing to recommend to people, and people have had me recommend this to them groan every time somebody asks for free game recommends or game recommends, because it's my first go-to. And it's a lovely game named Bird Gut. You did not hear me stutter. Bird Gut. It is a platformer. It's infuriating the first time you played it. I may or may not have over 5 or 10 hours in it. I think it's about 13 now. But it is not all that long of a game. I've just played it that many times, and I've gotten way too good at it. And I adore it. I absolutely adore it, because it's just the silliest of experiences. And I refuse to let this thing fall off the face of the earth. I love it too much. The author's other games do not match it at all, and I think it's hilarious. It just exists by its lonesome, and it's the funniest thing. I love it. I love it so much. I am going to continue. This is the #1 reason why I still go down the horrid expanse of Steam free games, because a lot of them are cash grabs or mobile games trying to break into the Steam market. Or idle clickers. There's a lot of idle clickers right now, and I'm not too much of a fan. I don't want to play an idle game. I want to play a game. Like, at this point, I've gotten to a state where I don't really touch my phone. I touch it for about messaging and one game, which is what I use to learn Japanese. And that is it. That is the #1 way I use my phone. It's messaging back. Oh, Finch. I message back other people, usually because I'm not on my computer. If I'm at my computer, I'm usually messaging people back on my computer. And then my Lingo Legend and Finch, and those are the 3 things I touch my phone for. And that's it. If I'm not using that, and this is usually in the evening, I will completely forget my phone. I've done an entire stream without realizing I left my phone on the dinner table 3 hours prior. I was going to bed and I'm like, oh, yeah. Because the thing is, when I'm sitting at the dining table and we're like eating and stuff, there's a little like cloth mat in front of me, and it's little hexagon shapes, and it's perfect. Just pop my phone right there, face down, don't even worry about it, don't touch it. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I want to check, is that how my screen time is used? I have a feeling a fair amount of it is probably also Tumblr and Pinterest. But a majority of it, I'm going to imagine... Where are my settings? There it is. I'm going to imagine is Lingo Legend. How do you see screen? Screen time? Screen time? Am I not allowed to have Wi-Fi? Screen... Where is this? It does not want to let me search anything. Would it be under battery? Probably. Battery usage? Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. You want to hear my apps today? I used my screen for 3 hours today. It is currently almost 8 p.m. I've been up since 6, so I've been up for 14 hours almost. I've used my screen... For 3 hours of that. An hour and 41 was Lingo Legend, because it takes fucking forever to do my lessons. And I was struggling. Mobile network stand? I don't know what that is. Finch was used for 40, because I had it open for 30 minutes today to do a focus timer. And then I used my browser for 3 minutes. I was on a call for 10 minutes. I've used Tumblr for 3 minutes. And I've used a food app called Too Good To Go for 4 minutes. And that's about it. Just... That's the bottom. That's it. I don't really use it. It's literally Lingo Legend that saps my battery, but I still have 50% at least by the end of the day. Unless I'm absolutely grinding at Lingo Legend and I'm suffering through. In which case, it'll be closer to like 35. But even then, I don't really touch my phone a lot anymore. And I do have games on my phone. I got games on my phone. It's not anything like my little cousins will go, oh, you have that on you? No. I have room sort. I have merge 3 object. Lingo Legend, and I think number match? What do I have? I have Cube Block as well. I have Cube Block, Goods Puzzle. Oh, I do have Mr. Autofire. That is the one full focus game I have, and it's only... I have it because I know every time I don't have any Wi-Fi and I don't have anything to do, I always want a game that I can just actually full focus on instead of a stupid puzzle game that I get bored of because I want something that actually grabs my attention. But that's the only one. My phone time is crazy, but most because I spend like 5 hours reading per day. Fair. So fair. My problem is I've read everything in my fandom that I want to. And it got to the point where recently I went to the main relationship tag and I scrolled through all of the results. And every day I'd slowly go back through the pages. I had this organized by date updated. And I started from recent and slowly went back, and every time I'd see that I went from one page to the next page, and something from the bottom of the first page went to the second page, I'd go to the top, see what recently updated, and then go back. Until I found the beginning of the fandom posting. And I just kind of ran out. I've read everything. I've read everything. I'm waiting on new things. There's still a couple things I'll go back and reread because I adore them. But I'm also trying to read more physical books. Yes, AO3. Yes. I don't read it. I did start reading on Tumblr. I don't really anymore. At this point, I literally have two browsers on my phone. One is Opera, which is the browser I use on my PC, and then I have Google as well. So if I need to quickly Google something, I just open Google, and I don't have to ruin my AO3 tabs. And then I have two tabs on AO3. One is a search, and the other is my bookmarks. If I see an author has updated, I go to the bookmarks, I go to subscriptions, I find the work. If I want to see whatever's recently updated, I go to the top of the search, and I see what's updated. And I just have it as a catch-all for the fandom, so I can just see whatever's popping up. If I don't like it, I scroll on through, that's it. I have all of, I think, like 3 or 4 things filtered, and I don't have anything blacklisted. And I think one of the few things is like, oh, over 1,000 words, and that's about it. I don't really have too much filtered, and I'm still read just about everything I could. It doesn't help I'm a fairly fast reader at all. That does not help my case in the slightest. But I have too much time on my hands. I have too much time. And I'll go back and be like, I remember when this work was updating. I remember when I was waiting for this. Oh, I remember when this chapter I remember when I found this one. And it's just a whole buttload. There's one fic I'm reading on AO3, and I've commented on every single chapter so far. And I click on the link as soon as it tells me a new chapter has come out. I love when that happens. I recently came across a fic by accident, and I'm commented like, I'm so glad I came across this fic. I found it by complete accident. And they're like, okay, I love that you found this. How did you find it by accident? I'm like, oh, I was looking for this pairing. I ended up here. And they're like, okay, yeah, point taken. You did find me by accident. Hi, welcome. I was looking for a niche pair. I was looking for a rare pair that has 4 or 5 fics that I know of. Unless people have updated new ones, but it's a fairly rare pair. Is there? There's about 5, 6, maximum 10 in the entire fandom for this. And I have yet to find more. I want to. I'm trying to, but I hit fics where I read them like, wow, this is amazing, and then I want to comment on it for it's like 2012. Oh, can this fandom be old? This fandom isn't that old. This fandom isn't old enough for fic to be from 2012. Hold on. Because I think we're about to hit 10 years. Or 11? We're about to hit 11 years. So, no. No. No, that cannot exist. The farthest back I can usually find for the fics I enjoy reading, because otherwise I'm in the end fandom. I'm not sure that's a question you want to answer to. I'm in the extensive of the fandom that's more just enjoying themselves. I found a nice little niche of the fandom, and I am not leaving because the rest of it's burning hell. So I'm gonna exist over here, thanks. And enjoy what I read and just move on with my life. I don't have time to be worried about this. I'm gonna enjoy what the other people are writing and move on with my day. And my brain's stuttering, and I'm not. It's because I haven't drank water. That would be why. Because I am actively overheating, and that is the reason my cheeks are getting warm. Because I am just straight up burning alive. That would be the answer. That would be the reason. Brain stuttering because I am dehydrated. There we go. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave this completely stone. I might do a little layer of snow atop it, but I think that's it. There's the thought I was on. I'm going to enjoy my little corner of the fandom. So the oldest I can go is about 9 years back. Is when the fandom really started kicking off. Most of it's a little more stereotyped, and it doesn't quite hit cringe, but it definitely hits a ooh. Maybe don't like people like that. Maybe don't. It just hits a little bit of those vibes. I'm like, I have other ones I could be reading. The problem is also I have a fairly good memory. And it's just occurred to me, every time when I was in high school or like in other classes and such, I never understood people taking notes of what they were reading. Because I'm like, why would you be taking notes? Did you not read it? And I finally figured out why this is for me. When I'm reading, I am memorizing the text. That is my thing. When I'm reading something, when I'm watching something, when I'm engaging with anything, I'm memorizing it. And that's the problem, because I constantly go back and think about this thing because I've memorized it. I don't have to reread it to think about it. I've memorized the thing. I know everything that happens. So it always annoyed teachers that I didn't have notes to turn in. But I didn't have notes to turn in because I memorized the whole thing. I don't have to have notes because I just remember it. I know the entire text. I know everything that occurs. Which makes it hard to go back and re-enjoy things. But it means I can ace any test you have about this. Although there are some books I do go and enjoy reading again, and even some fanfics. There is one in particular that is absolutely fantastically written, and you know it's fantastically written because it's a Russian translation. It's an English translation from Russian. You know it's a good fic when you find one of those. And I will go back and reread through this because it is a masterclass of writing. Every time you reread it, you notice something new that pertains to the ending that you're like, you showed this early? When? When did you do this? How did you do this? Why did I not notice that? Oh my god, that is so obvious. How? You are a master. You are simply a master. And so there are very few, but I do have a few of those. And then there's other ones that are just like sweet scenarios with characters that I want to go back and reread because they're just a nice read. Third time in a row I've mentioned Sherlock in the stream, that's what I read. Fair. We were doing a group reading this year, and I read the whole book before our first meeting, and I was still quoting things in my group, and they were so confused at how I did that. I did that by accident, kind of, in middle school, when we were reading Hunger Games, and I just got so into the book that I completely skipped past the chapter I was supposed to stop at, because I'm just like, I'm enjoying the book, I'm reading the book, that's what you wanted me to do, and I ended up going too far ahead. But that's what I get for being able to read, like, 5,000, 10,000 words. I think it's 10,000 words I can knock out in an hour. I know I've written 7,000 in a day once. I did that ages. I need to sit down and write more. I need to do that more. I'm trying to make the time to, and I was going to make time to tonight, because I'm trying to set it up. I feel like it's going to be easier for me to write and get writing done at the end of the day, where I'm not interrupted as much. Problem is working on motivation for that, and getting myself to do anything at the end of the day, which is why streams are here, and not in the morning, because the morning is when I get all my stuff done. Yes! It's like, there are too many little interruptions, so the best time is at night. And I'm trying to offset it with streams, so normally I wouldn't be streaming Wednesday nights. I have been avoiding and not being able to... I've been exhausted to do any streaming for, like, the entire week. So I said, fuck it, we're streaming tonight, I don't care. I just want to stream. I made all these cute overlays. I love this so much. I just want to stream. I got a word at the end. At the end of this year for my ELA teacher for reading the most books out of all her classes. You know you read too much. In my 9th grade English class, or I think, yeah, it was like my English or literature class, one of them. The teacher let me do whatever the fuck I wanted during like the silent reading time we had at the beginning of each class, because he knew I read that much. He didn't give a fuck. Which of course annoyed the hell out of other students. They're like, why can you like draw and stuff and we can't? Like, you reads all the time. This is for you guys to do any reading at all. And like literally every single time before class, I'm just sitting there on my phone reading. This brings me, I was reading the exact fanfic I was talking about earlier. No, this is a completely different fanfic that's way longer than I was thinking of. In graphic design, the teacher I had would often have to go away for different conventions and stuff. She had gotten the job because she had extreme experience in the field, so she was always going off to conventions to learn new things and see new techniques, etc., bring back stuff for us to learn. And one of the times we had this substitute that was an older lady, very much so, and this graphic design class took a bit slower. It was more focused on the learning than just getting assignments done, this, and this. And I had already gotten that assignment done. I had gotten it done pretty quick. I already have and still have a fair amount of art experience. I was pretty good at the class. I adored the class. And so I got the assignment done pretty quick. And she comes over and is like, why are you on your phone? I got the assignment done. All right, do another one. I'm like, okay. And so I did the next one. And I still had time left in class. And so she's like, why are you on your phone again? I finished the assignment. Okay, do the next one. And I'm like, okay. And I did another one. And I was on my phone again. And she's like, okay, do all the assignments. Just keep going until you don't have assignments. I kept going until I didn't have assignments, because there were some assignments that I literally could not do without the teacher's input and understanding what she meant by this thing or that, or her help with it. And I still had time left in class. To the point where that substitute just gave up on me. Fun fact, this was right before COVID. So I had barely anything to do for the rest of the year in that class, because I had finished all of them because of that substitute. I had all of them turned in except like one or two. And even those assignments, I still had enough done, or like notes taken of it, that there wasn't anything else for me to do aside from a little input here or there on what the teacher meant, and then move on and finish it, and that's it. So I guess thank you to that substitute, kind of, I guess. A little bit. Okay, yeah, that looks a lot better. That's fine. My study hall teacher would have us read sometimes, and sometimes I was like, can I do blah blah blah? And she was like, of course, girl, you finished a full book yesterday. I'm trying to slowly finish the humor seriously one. I'm almost done with it. Almost. It's so close, not quite. I've talked about it a lot. I will still always be butthurt over this. One of the art teachers I had, because there's not a placement test you can do for art, I have been doing art for over 10 years now, and just making art all the time because I'm bored. That is fully and wholeheartedly the reason I started and continue to. I'm bored. There's nothing better for me to do. I might as well do art. You want to see the fruits of my labor? When I was bored in middle school and I had nothing better to do, I started taking my note cards and doing doodles on them, and I learned about a specific type of doodling, as it were, called Zentangles. I don't think doodling is the appropriate thing. There's absolutely specific art to this, and I kind of suck at it. But I would take my note cards. I had a lot of these, and I started getting blank ones specifically to do this, and do Zentangles on them. And I started selling these as bookmarks for, I think, like $2 to students and teachers. One teacher had bought several of them that I had made in that class period, on that day, in that class. And I literally just made them, and I think I was good $40 or something out of doing all that. Which to middle schooler is bank money. But in high school, there wasn't a placement test you could do for art classes. So I got put in the intro art class. And I would always finish the assignments early. Granted, I did get one assignment I absolutely adore out of this. But I would always finish the assignments early, and the teacher would be like, okay, do it again for extra credit. And I would do it again. And I'd still have time before the other people were done. I'd get about one assignment done a day. And she's like, okay, do another one, and do another one. And it got to the point where I would turn in about 3 assignments every single time we had an assignment. To the point she just gave up. She just gave up on it. Just stopped bothering. And I still find it so funny, because she was so butthurt that I dared draw something different than her given assignment in that class, or I was writing. How dare I? That stupid teacher. I'm so glad she's not working at the school anymore. Also, at some point, I brought my Kindle to school and I was like, yo, can I read on this? She was like, yeah, as long as it's school appropriate. And I was just kind of like, yeah, sure. That reminds me, I don't know how this got passed. In middle school, somehow, one of my friends had found this and had checked this out, and I don't know if it's still at that middle school. I think it'd be hilarious if it did. I'm not in contact with this friend anymore. We kind of drifted apart. I would love to contact them just to see if they remember what the name of the book was. But somehow, an explicit book had gotten into the middle school library. And my friend had been one of the people to check it out. And it was like, I think it was like an LGBTQ book as well. But it was just an explicit art book. Your art teachers were so done with you. Yes. I like being efficiently lazy. I will take all the time to do it right the first time, so I don't have to ever do it again. I will find the most efficient way to get my work done as fast as possible. In math class, this culminated. After COVID, one of my math class teacher started just fully doing lessons online. She would post them up to YouTube, and then she would have us link to the video. So we would watch the video and work on the assignment, and she could go around and give individual help to people. This let the people who are faster in the class just get done at their pace and go really freaking fast through the class, like me. And it let other people that needed more time, she could work one-on-one with them through the assignment step by step. And it worked out extremely well. I adored this method. Because it meant I could put the video on 2 times speed and get the assignment done in 15 minutes and get the homework done in another 15 minutes and have the entire rest of the class do whatever the hell I wanted. And it was fantastic. I loved it. That is by far I already adored math class as it is. I did genuinely like math class. But I specifically adored that one. Also, thank you to that teacher for letting me know and not letting me get into architecture. I adore architecture. That is one of the things I doodle when I am bored. If I'm bored, I choose. If anybody knows art, you know this. If I am bored, I choose to do perspective art. People fucking hate perspective art, rightfully so. I choose to do it when I'm bored. That is the thing that lets my mind go. I choose to do it. But I adore architecture, and I make up floor plans when I'm bored, which works fantastically with Minecraft. And I make up floor plans when I'm bored, and it was 9th grade, I still had the same math teacher. And I was talking about, like, oh yeah, I love architecture, and she's like, oh yeah, I was trying to be an architect too. And then I ended up just kind of designing supermarkets, and I didn't really like it. I'm like, you know what, fair. And decided, no, I don't want to do that anymore. There's a book I got as a romance. I was like, yeah, this looks cool. There wasn't like banging or anything, but there's like some hard flirting. I was like, what? Since when is this allowed here? Fair. Absolutely fair. Every now and again, the book just makes you do a double take. Is this allowed? Is that allowed? You clutching at your pearls. How dare they? How dare they? I think my favorite, like, clutch pearls is I was reading a book of writing advice from my local library, and it had, like, a lot of good advice, but one of them was like, oh, maybe hold back a little bit on swearing, because it's far more jarring when it's the only swear in the whole fucking book. Yeah, that is a bit more jarring. Yeah, you've proven your point. You've successfully proven the point. That was the only swear in the whole book. It's very jarring, and I think Overlord, the anime, does this very well. Because there's so rarely swears, and then every now and again, I think the first swear I heard in Overlord was some old man calling a woman a bitch. Rightfully so, but still. My librarian was even like, oh, this book is awesome, I love it. I gotta love every now and again when you have that little moment of, I know what you are. It's great. This looks wrong. Rounded. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. I don't know, there are some things I've accidentally added to my vocabulary, and I'm not sure if I'm happy about it or not. One of which is Homestead of. That comes from a meme. That is not something I randomly procured myself. That is a meme. That is a Deltarune meme. That is a very, very old Deltarune meme. With what's-his-face. Whichever one's the blue knightly guy that sits by the king. Someone made a meme of him, like, with different, with a bunch of different words, slowly getting, like, weirder and weirder, and the end of it was Homestead of! And it got added to my vocabulary, and I've not gotten rid of it. I don't know how, I don't know if I can ever go back. It is now part of my vocabulary. And I feel like the tiny ahs are now a part of it. And I'm not sure if that's something I should be happy about or not. It's here now, though. It's here, it's fairly queer. And I fear that I have to hold my beer. I lost the rhyme on that completely, wholeheartedly. I was struggling. Everyone hated my librarian because she was like mean strict, and I fucking loved her. She was amazing because I stayed on her good side. Yeah, that for me, that was my middle school art teacher. My middle school art teacher, everyone thought was a bitch, and that she sucked and she was horrible and always talked behind her back, while they desecrated her art supplies that she had to pay out of her own pocket because the school literally had no funding for its art programs. So maybe don't be a rude little shit in her class, and she won't be mean. Or, aka, literally just tell you off for doing the shit you shouldn't be doing. It's as simple as that. Like, the one moment that stands out to me the most is there was a kid in one of our classes, and we were doing a little photography project, we were gonna go take pictures, and then we had a little, simple black colored paper frame we were gonna put it in, we were gonna fold it over and just print a picture in there. And this kid started doing origami with the paper he was given, and she had no extra paper, she couldn't give him anything else, there was nothing she could do about it. And of course she's telling him off, like, don't do this, this is not what we're here for. And he had such an attitude with her for it, and like, literally, you've one job, and it's just not do that. I think the funniest thing about that teacher, though, she had the exact same name as the PE teacher. This was a white woman, the PE teacher. Completely unrelated. They had zero relation at all, but they had the exact same name. This was not a fairly common name. It was a somewhat common. It was not a super common name. But they had the exact same last name. And I think it was so funny. Thankfully, it was, Mr. was the PE teacher and Miss was the art teacher, so it was fairly easy to keep separate, but also it just was kind of funny. But she was genuinely a sweet teacher. I love showing her off the various art I was doing. She really liked the Zentangles I was doing as well. We even had an assignment at one point to just do some mindless Zentangles, and I started showing her the ones I was doing already. She loved it. I made my friend 50 paper cranes this year randomly. Like, I just walked up her and handed her like 10 at the most random times. That's the best. I love doing that, but in a more comedic stand-up comedy sense, there's a couple bits I have at hand at any given time that I can reference to friends that just makes them groan, but smile at the same time. One of those I have with Xralia. There's a Roblox game we like to play called The Mimic. It is a horror game. I used to say it was fairly good. They did a recent update. Somehow the quality went up and down at the same time. It has beautiful, beautiful graphics. Absolutely gorgeous graphics. They have voice acting, they have all that. The gameplay is playing the Among Us wires 80 times. That is not a joke. That is an exact number. So, my rating has gone down dramatically. We didn't bother finishing it, because it's just a bunch of stupid Skyrim fetch quests to somewhat make a story string along together. They would have had far more success as a novel than a game. But when we were playing through Book 2, it's currently now on Book 3. Book 1 is the best by far if you ever do want to check it out. Play Book 3, play Book 1, don't bother with anything else. I know it's going to look like shit, the gameplay's worth it. Book 1 we had a bunch of fun with and we were so excited to play Book 2. And for a little while we fell apart and we started hanging out together again. I'm like, you know, we gotta play Mimic. We weren't friends, really, when the last of it came out. Let's go play Book 2. We're just gonna do all in one. And Book 2 is when it starts to decline. And so we're dealing with this stupid chase sequence where you can't quite tell where you're supposed to go. And at the time, I really liked one particular song. So I had this blasting on repeat. And I go, hey X, guess what? Yeah, we're gonna get through this, you wanna know why? And she's like, why? Because ain't nothing gonna break our stride. Nobody gonna hold us down. What? Oh, we gotta keep on moving. And so this has been a consistent thing now. I was belting out singing Matthew Wilder, Ain't Nothing Gonna Break My Stride, for the entirety of this chase sequence. And now it's a consistent joke, especially when we're playing Mimic. Hey X, you wanna know something? What? We're gonna get through this. Why? Because ain't nothing gonna break our stride. Nobody gonna slow us down. Whoa. And it's to the point where I could just kind of go, nothing's gonna stop us, you know why, X? Because nobody gonna slow us down! And we start singing it. It is the best thing. Another one I have with my best friend, who I refer to as Sugar Cookie. She is my childhood best friend. I have known her for 16 years now. And we still get along and talk a lot. I now call her every day, so we can check in on each other and help each other out, because we're both extremely ADHD. And with her, it's the rats. Because one of her common things she says as a response to just about anything is goes, that's crazy. And I'm like, crazy? I was crazy once. And I just get this long, awful sigh. It is the best. Also, any dad joke. I will always take the opportunity for a good dad joke. If I got the dopamine up, the vibes are high, I am going to belt out as much improv as I possibly can. If I see a chance for a joke, I will take it. I feel like this mostly shows up in multiplayer settings. I struggle with it a little more in single player unless I have something I can really bounce off of and start pulling a line through. But in large part, I am really good at building off of other people and improvising off of it. It is by far the number one reason I like playing in SMPs. There's going to be another SMP up soon, by the way. Next Wednesday. This Wednesday was just a Terra Swoop Force edit. Next Wednesday is going to be Royal Realms. It's a themed SMP, and I can't wait for y'all to see it, because I am very excited. And I have started lore for it. I'm going to be doing lore focused, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I have it storyboarded out, and I am so excited. I was bored while doing crafts and repeated that for like 2 hours straight. That's fair. Whoop. Boop, 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 boop. I need to do more crafts again too. Something I really want to do, I want to put some money together and just get one of like those diamond art things and start doing that to decorate my room, because I have... Yeah, just the paint. You can't see it anymore. Just that painting right there. That's the only paint. Oh, I do have one up there. I do have one over there. But that's it as far as wall art goes. All the other walls are barren. So I would love to get some art, and I would love to do diamond art to decorate my room. I feel like that'd just be cool. I would really love to do that. I'm not too far from a craft store. I just need to go do it. I need to go buy. But money... I don't want to spend it. I don't want to spend it. I literally have so many things just to save money, and I usually avoid spending any. There are very few things I actively spend money on. One of them is the server, and even then, we actually pay for it way less than most people would. Most servers you'll come across for a modded instance like what we're running would be at least 20 bucks. I am paying 13. Logic servers is fantastic, and they don't only do Minecraft servers, they do a lot of various games, and you will get a good price for it. The lowest you can pay for a Minecraft server with this is like, I think $6. $6 or $8. I think it's like $5 a month for like 2 gigabytes. Something like that. I always use the same lines to respond to things, and my friends hate how over the summer my vocab resets, so I'll start using all the new pets and gigs. That's the best thing about it, though. I love when I have a new bit to refer to again. It's the greatest. I gotta start annoying people with it. Every time I have something new to add in, especially if I bring somebody in on the joke and I have to show them this thing, and then we make a joke out of it, that's even better. Can I want to do this and start lining this up together. Yeah. Why not? Why not? It's occurred to me I haven't worked on paths at all, technically. We've been terraforming this entire stream, but whatever. Same difference. It's fine. About an hour and a half in the stream, that's why I'm not drinking water! Because I'm out of water. Haha, nope, you thought. This is why I have 2 water bottles. These are both 32 ounces. And I stuff them chock full of ice. If it does not feel like my tongue has touched the Antarctica blue ice, I don't want it. I did make a mistake. Our ice machine currently still is broken. And towards the beginning of this, I'm like, I'm just gonna throw my fridge. Throw my fridge in the freezer, throw my water bottle in the freezer for like an hour or 2, and then I forgot about it. I forgot that I had done that to keep my water cool, because I absolutely despise lukewarm or temperate water. I hate it. I feel like a human soup. I am not soup. Thank you very much. I am a skelebat. I do not wish to have this weird liquid that exists. I will hydrate, yes. And so I throw it in there, and I completely forgot about it until the next morning, and it took like the entire day for that thing to thaw. Because these are metal water bottles. So of course the thing wouldn't thaw at all. And it was just kind of there. And I couldn't touch my water bottle for like the entire day. I completely reset over summer, so my friends have to relearn my personality. Oh yeah, that's the. Yeah, in hindsight, there is still a problem there. I do still need to fix that. Honestly, the summers were always used to reset my sleep. In hindsight, that was probably a mental health issue. However, it was probably also very much so just a general health issue. I didn't learn until like late high school that I had not been getting proper sleep my entire life. Or at least for the vast majority of my life, I hadn't been getting deep sleep at all, which is kind of fucking imperative to your health. So I've been sleep deprived for years and I had no idea. Anyway, by the way, if you don't get dreams every night, you should. And you should check and see if you have melatonin and you suddenly get dreams again, that means you're not having a deep sleep cycle, and you should look into that and see what works and what helps you the most. Preferably if your health professional or someone you trust for health advice or mental health advice. It could be both. Sometimes that is anxiety linked. But most of my summers I just spent sleeping. Honestly. Especially high school. Or not high school, middle school. I spent my summers catching up on sleep. I am a very heavy sleeper. Even more so now that I'm actually getting the sleep I need. We talked about that last time. Yeah. Finally started dreaming again. Nice! It's fantastic. I'm very proud. I hate being sleep deprived. People are like, oh, just say. I'm like, no. I was sleep deprived. I'm never doing that again. I was very sleep deprived. I had no idea how I existed as well as I did. I had no idea how I was such an adjusted person, considering I wasn't getting fundamentally important aspects of my life done. You kinda need to sleep. Sleep is not for the weak. It is for the goddamn healthy, and I am not ever going to be sleep deprived again. I was an asshole. I have, however, learned there is a very specific range I have. And this is definitely because of ADHD. And I feel like this now that I have ADHD meds, but before I realized I was ADHD and got ADHD meds, there's a very specific range that I had. And it always occurred, and I realized this always happened when I was walking home from school and I was just perfectly tired. Not enough to be an asshole. Not enough to overthink anything. And I just became the funniest motherfucker, and I don't know why. I would improv off of anything and everything around me. This was also about a year or two into me doing streaming and all, which had improved my improv quality a lot. But if I'm not overthinking every little thing I say and every little interaction I do, suddenly life's a lot easier. And I can do that if I am the perfect amount of tired, or I so happen to be on ADHD meds. I fell asleep like 4 times yesterday on accident. I had some wacky dreams each time. Like my whole day's thoughts were included. It was weird. Ooh, interesting. I need to start writing down some of my dreams again. Every now and again I have a wacky one that's like hella specific. And I'm just like, okay, that happened. And then I move on for my morning and I forget what it was. I should start writing those down though. I think that'd be so funny. Oh, hi. Oh yeah, because I was being a silly goose with these, and I wanted them to look all whimsy and aesthetic. So it's actually a horror to walk through, and it ended up not really doing anything worthwhile. But we do our best. We do our best anyway. I really do want to write down my dreams though. Is that perfect? Yeah. Nice. That is a fair bit of terraforming. I'm very happy with that. That's a good amount of progress done. I'm getting a nice amount of progress done on the SMP this week. I want to start going around, and this is definitely like a server owner problem. I want to find ways to make it more fun. I realize this is over. A little bit too much, because I'm like not centered. You can't ever see this hand, because I'm just off of it a little bit too much. I want to find some fun little pranks to do. And currently my idea of pranks for the server is I want to do like some old school, not kind of prank you're thinking. I want to start putting diamond trees on people's lawns. I want to start doing diamond trees on people's lawns and shit. I just want to do some kind of wholesome pranks. If I hear somebody needs food, I just bring a truckload of food. I build a little farmer's market in front of their place with all the foods they could possibly... I build a restaurant in front of their house with all the food they could want. Just goofy stuff, but good stuff like that. Also, side note, I have expanded my storage. Not in the way you think. Half of this storage room, I haven't been using. The vast majority of these are still empty. So I started... Not expanding is not the word I want. Spreading out. There we go. Spreading out the storage. I gotta go, sorry. Since I leave tomorrow for my trip, I'd like to sleep. So good night. Have a good rest of your stream. Thank you. I'm gonna be ending off soon here anyway. But I appreciate you sticking around and hanging out. See you next time. Bye-bye. Have fun on your trip. I can't wait to hear about it when you're back. There we go, Dirt. I've spread out my storage a lot more, so hopefully this isn't such a butthead to deal with. And I'm not having to constantly throw things in little chests in order to make this sustainable. I might need to throw things in little chests to make this sustainable, because I have way too much grass. Far too much. There's no... right. Yep, over here. Nope, right here. This one? Yeah. I have far too much grass under it, and I have no idea how I'm ever going to use this. No, that is not. I think I just need to allow people to have an open, free pass to my storage. Because this... I'm a hoarder. I'm a Minecraft hoarder. I could leave all these blocks behind. I could throw all of these in one big pile and light them on fire. I could. But I don't. I do not do that. Not at all. There it is. I don't do that at all. I instead find the little spots where they should go, or otherwise make a spot for them to go. And I slowly sort them when I really, really don't need to. There is no reason that I need to be running around and finding exactly where my cherry saplings go. Jade's not working. Please? I kind of rely on it. There we go. I really, really shouldn't. And yet, here I am. Very slowly. Putting away each thing where it goes, where it belongs, where it shall rest. Until I decide, oh, I really want a lot of this. I don't know when I'm gonna need 3 stacks of poppies. I have 3 stacks of poppies. I don't know when I'm gonna need 5 stacks of leaf litter. I have 5 stacks of leaf litter. I probably should throw away some of these spruce planks paths. I have a lot of spruce planks paths. I'm very surprised I didn't start that one. This side is the dark oak. I missed some snow. Also, I did move because we're dealing with all of the enchantment farm up above. Enchantment? Yeah, I guess it is an enchantment farm, technically. Because I'm dealing with the XP farm and enchanting up above, I have since moved down most, if not everything, down here. So there's currently no storage and nothing being stored up there. I am going to add storage. There is a little room. This one, underneath those stairs, was an empty area I had no idea what to do with. And there wasn't really a whole lot to do here because it would have been 2 blocks tall. So I'm like, okay. I have some planks. I have these little logs down here. Let's just go 1 block down and pretend the floor is logs. It works. It's fine. And now I'm going to have a little storage room here. So hopefully that works out pretty well. Hopefully. It should. I don't see any reason why not. You should. I imagine it to be. But that is yet to be seen. I have a lot of work to attempt to do tomorrow. And I'm also going to be recording another thing tomorrow. So that's going to be fun, and I also got to hit the library. So it's going to be a fun full morning. And I'm going to get the most of this that I can get done. Tomorrow's agenda currently stands... Forgot how much podzol I have. I have a lot of podzol. Is I redo the spawners upstairs so I can find a way to fit and properly adjust some automatic lights in there. We mentioned this early in the stream. I want to use target blocks to make some automatic lights with an on-off switch. And I'll just hit the target block with my grappling hook to turn them on and off. There's no concern about how far I need to put them away. It's just fine as it is. I do need to reorganize all the spawners, and I do need to add totems to those ones up there, because those can't be activated where I'm standing anymore. I have to go up another full 3 blocks for those to be activated, which is most certainly a problem. And I want on-off switches so that when I am standing up here or I'm standing around the general area, they don't get thrown and start working again. Honestly, I'm half tempted. I think I might get rid of the tiers disc and just add totems to all of them. Which I may need to go out and get totems for. Oh, hi. Thank you. Because the tiers music disc just increases the amount that spawn, and considering I have 8 of these spawners, I don't think that's necessary. I'm okay with waiting an extra minute. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. So that's to be done. And then I also need to finally finish the greenhouse for that, and ideally if I can swing it. Also, excuse. Thank you. You're a butthead. If I can swing it, I want to figure out the exterior for that as well. Because I never properly figured that out, never really did that, so I need to do that. There's several things that need to be done, get done. So that'll be it for this one. We'll also be streaming tomorrow. It'll be Cult of the Lamb. I'm gonna see if OBS lets me touch it now. Because every time I dare click on OBS, it decides it wants to crash again. I'm allowed to click on chatting. Okay, fine. Cool. We're good. We're fine then. Okay. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm not gonna look a horse plinko in the mouth. I am a-okay with that. I'm gonna see if we can find a channel to raid. Shadow! Shadow's live. We're gonna raid Shadow. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go say hi to Shadow. They're doing a subathon. We're gonna go pop over to them. That sounds like fun. Better TT. I can see better TTV settings in Twitch now. Okay, I'll check that out later. Cool. I didn't know I could do that. We're gonna do that. Raid. Raid. Shadowvale. 145. They didn't type in any of that. Shadow. Vale. 145. Yes? Yeah. Okay. We're gonna go raid them. So that'll be it. There's gonna be a stream tomorrow for Cult of the Lamb, and then I think next stream is Saturday? I'm on a stream Saturday because 4th of July and everything. And then we'll be back at it again Sunday, I believe, because I don't think there's anything happening then that I should be wary of. I don't remember there to be. No. So we will be streaming again Saturday after that. And Sunday after that. And Sunday will be when the Passion SMP video is up, and you'll get to see the XP farm. So, with all that said and done, thank you all for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed all of the new stream overlays. I very much so do myself. I might fix the other gaming thing, so it's not one block too tall. But we will see. So we're gonna go out, raid out Shadow. If you're watching on the VOD, I strongly recommend you go over and follow them. They're a fantastic person. They're also on the server. and go support their subathon. If you're seeing this in the future, still go find them on Twitch. They're fantastic. But that'll be it. We're gonna raid now. And now it's just you and me, VOD people. I hope you have a good day. You have food, water, everything you need to do, everything